All righty. So it looks like we are live, guys. Hopefully you can hear me. And if you are part of the replay crew, just remember this is originally it's a live event, 100% unscripted. So if there's delays or spaces of silence, that's why. It's not a YouTube video. If you're part of the replay crew, you missed the live event. So don't panic and don't leave rude comments, please. Let's go ahead and welcome in Don Spain and Anything I Like. And let me share my screen with you guys. And welcome back to the Sleuth Intuition channel. I'm your host, Patrick Vallejos. We are broadcasting to the world live from Phoenix. All right. News. The morning of September 24th, which is today, a targeted sniper attack occurred at a U.S. Immigration and Customs. The facility is where recently arrested detainees are held briefly, typically in a holding room. We learn they call that the Sally Port, right? Long-term detention or release. The incident unfolded around 6:30 a.m. local time, resulting in one detainee killed, two others. The ICE officers, the FBI is investigating it as an act of clear event comes amid heightened tensions over ICE and recent deportations and prior threats against ICE facilities. I believe they have identified the shooter as Josh John with an A. Once again, we have signatures left at the crime scene, obvious radical left ideology. And I don't know if this started with Mangione or not. I'm not sure, but we definitely have a pattern, right? I threw this together, and I'm sure I'm missing some. Yeah, they want you to believe that the conservative folks are the violent ones, right? Those violent conservatives. It might be white men, yeah, but they're appear to be radical left. Tony says this is so crazy. Phil Bond. The arguments are no longer holding up. See, that's the problem with the cult. You can never stray away from the cult or you will be shunned. But if the consensus of the cult is beginning to just look foolish, you can't divert from it. So it must be frustrating. So instead of going away from those ideas or even trying to make them better or correct any errors, they just the world around them to fit inside that narrow little echo chamber they've built. So cults are very scary, and I think that that's what's happened to the liberal left. They've invited all of these people with zero and and mix in a lot of childhood trauma, zero connection to God, and they're already suicidal. So if they're suicidal, they're basically at this point kamikaze soldiers because they don't care. Look at this guy. He went in and he engraved the anti the frequency that they have, that they're the vibration. So these lunatics catch on to that and they're listening to their leaders. This is like mass MK Ultra right here. Same goes for the Catholic church shooter in Minnesota. This guy actually drew a picture of himself looking in the mirror at a demon. Charlie Kirk's assassin wrote some stuff from a video game on here. Right, basically dropping a nuclear warhead and say hello to democracy. So basically, they're done talking, right? The arguments don't work anymore. They don't make any sense. So we can't argue anymore, even though we're great debaters and we're not afraid to go out and debate. But these gosh darn Charlie Kirks out here making us look really stupid. They're even convincing me that I'm dumb. But I made all these new friends and I already dyed my hair pink. You know, I'm not leaving this cult. I finally found a place that I belong. I feel empowered. Inside this echo chamber, I'm not part of the fringe anymore. I'm not fringe there. We are the majority here. But when they step out into the real world, they're still the fringe minority that's been weaponized by a political party with total reckless disregard. Because when you're suicidal, you don't care, right? You just want to take as many people as you can with you. That's your basic school shooter right there. Liberals, they are leftist, woke, indoctrinated. So, yeah, they've adopted the name liberals. Right? Like, but we live in upside down world. Land. Tony, the shooter was anti-ICE but killed the detainees. Yeah, that's what they do. That's what they do. And then you're going to have people like Jimmy Kimmel that are going to come out and spin it like, look, it's a white guy who targeted the immigrants. See, the white guy was targeting illegal immigrants, and the ICE agents brought him right out there for him, made them targets. When in actuality, they were targeting ICE. Let's continue on with the information here. Okay. So let's look at a brief timeline. Shooter at 6:30 a.m. The shooter opens fire from an elevated position, a rooftop, from an adjacent building, possibly an immigration attorney's office, approximately 200 yards away. Sounds a lot like what happened to Charlie Kirk. Targeting detainees being processed near a secure entryway. Let's see. Targeting detainees being processed near a secure entryway. Audio from Dallas Police Dispatch captures officers responding to reports of a sniper on top of the roof. At 6:45 a.m., initial shots strike 3 detainees. One dies at the scene. Two the Dallas Police Department and federal agents as horsemen approach, exchange of fire occurs. 10 a.m. Joint press conference held by DPD Chief Daniel Cormier, FBI Dallas Special Agent in charge Joe Rothrock, Acting ICE Director Todd Lyons, and others. Evidence of anti-ICE messages of ammunition is revealed. I first saw that posted, I think it was by Kash Patel on his X. Breaking news. Identity of the shooter is Joshua John, a 29-year-old white male. I think this is right here. Joshua John. And never a believer. Yeah, seems strange, but it all still so. I don't know yet. It says detainees, but he's anti-ICE. He's just probably an idiot and didn't even realize what he was aiming at. Right? It doesn't matter. Whatever destruction came from it, it was ICE's fault, or conservative voters who keep voting this kind of behavior in, right? God forbid we have law and order around here. The left is responsible, in my opinion, stirring up the cases that are being take all of the fringe groups and turn them into one group and then radicalize them, knowing that mental health is a big part of why they enter into these groups to begin with. And then instead of offering them help, medical attention, facilities, they turn them into radical, political, militant enforcers. You know, if I was suffering with ideology issues or dysphoria, feeling lost, it'd be nice to have purpose. You know what I mean? It would be nice to take all my frustration and anger and that would be wonderful. I wasn't myself anymore. Which was reaching a breaking point, which is probably what happened to Joshua John here. So born in 21st, 6 foot, 210. What's up, Hiawatha? None of what's on that screen makes sense. It does to the possessed. I feel like there's just a bunch of people out there that are possessed by like some kind of a demonic force. But it's not. What it is, it's just lack of God, which is the same thing. When you don't have God, That's what fills that void, is everything but God. How do you lose that connection with God? Yeah, taught that. I see it written all over these people's faces. It hurts. I can feel it. The pain of it. Instead of talking about it, you hide it, and then it becomes like a medical problem. What, this? Yeah, I don't know if this is real. I pulled this up on from X. There's taken or his X feed, sorry. Look across my road. Let me see, go to the top. Josh John, look both ways before you cross my road. This but fake his identity. Thank you, CJ. I appreciate that. Just shot up. And says wrong guy, dummy. Wrong guy, dummy. So I don't know. I'll keep you guys posted on that. Definitely the right name, though. Joshua John, a 29-year-old white male from the Dallas area. His full background is under investigation, but preliminary reports suggest no prior criminal history tied to extremism. He was armed with a rifle. Looking at the weapon, it looks like a Garand. Looking at the ammunition, M1 Garand rifle is what it looks like to me. Here, let me pull it up for you guys. Let's see. Here's one with the ammo. No, maybe not. I could be wrong. Sorry. Yeah, definitely not. All right. He fired from a rooftop in an adjacent building using a long range precision described as a sniper style by officials. He appears to have scouted the facility, possibly observing daily processing routines. Found dead on the rooftop from a self inflicted wound upon police arrival. No claims have been publicly linked yet. Illogical motives are evident from physical evidence. One unnamed ICE detainee killed at the scene. Two other detainees, both hospitalized in critical condition at Parkland Hospital. All victims were in secure processing area and being prepared for deportation or transfer. Their nationality It's insane. People the both sides bullshit when clearly the on the actual screen, but this is accurate. And then he rubbed the ink into the scratching, kind of like a tattoo. That's why it looks kind of sloppy. All right. Is that a little better? I had a lot of items open. Shut that down. Shut that down. Okay, the attack's anti-ice nature is substantiated by physical evidence. Looks like ammunition. At least 5 unspent shell casings recovered. Ice in blue ink. Others contain Joe stated early found near the suspected shooter contain messages that are anti-ice. FBI Director Kash Patel shared a photo of the casing on X, confirming the engraving and calling it evidence of an ideological motive. The shooter struck during detainee processing, suggesting premeditation. DHS officials noted it as a part of a pattern of violence against immigration enforcement. Yeah, it must have been rape. We don't yet. We know that our ICE prevented violence against them. It must stop. She confirmed the shooter's suicide and emphasized support for ICE. The most we've seen of targeted violence. Full resource after incident from a couple hundred yards away, November detainee location. DPD Chief Daniel Cormier confirmed 4 people shot, including shooter, and praised rapid response. We are working shoulder to shoulder with federal partners. Dallas Mayor Eric Johnson urged prayer and unity, saying, "Join me also in prayer for the city that we can come together at a time like this." Greg Abbott Texas fully supports ICE. This assassination will not slow our arrest, detention, and deportation of illegal immigrants. U.S. Senator Ted Cruz, politically motivated violence is wrong. This is the third shooting in Texas directed at ICE or Customs and Border Protection, said Ted Cruz. And I actually might have that video. Let's play that.
Violence is.
All right, this video is about 3 minutes long here.
This needs to stop. Violence is wrong. Politically motivated violence is wrong. It was 2 weeks ago today that we saw a political assassination in Utah that tore the heart out of much of this country. This is the third shooting in Texas directed at ICE or CBP. This must stop. To every politician who is using rhetoric, demonizing ICE and demonizing CBP, stop. To every politician demanding that ICE agents be doxxed and calling for people to go after their families, stop. This has very real consequences. Look, in America, we disagree. That's fine. That's the democratic process. But your political opponents are not Nazis. We need to learn to work together without demonizing each other, without attacking each other. And I want to say thank you. I want to say thank you to the brave men and women of law enforcement. I want to say thank you to the brave men and women of ICE and CBP and everyone who puts their lives on the line to keep us safe. The divisive rhetoric tragically has real consequences. I hope that every one of us will pray, number one, for the safety of law enforcement that are risking their lives to keep us safe. Number two, for the health of those who were shot and injured today. We still don't know the full details of who was injured, but for the families also of the victims of this shooting. Violence has no place. It is wrong. And we should come together. If we want to have a debate about immigration policies, we can do so in the halls of Congress without demonizing each other, and especially without demonizing the men and women who every day put on a badge and go risk their lives to keep us safe. And we should not be putting language out there that inspires madmen to commit evil crimes. Our prayers are with the men and women of law enforcement, and we ought to come together and have some decency across the political aisle to say this violence is wrong and it needs to stop.
Senator, have you been told that immigrant detainees were the victims of today's shooting?
My understanding is the details of who the victims are still being ascertained, so I don't want to go ahead of law enforcement releasing these details. What they have said is that no law enforcement was injured, and so that's a natural inference, but I don't know the details.
He said if you disagree with somebody politically, that doesn't make them Nazis. Yeah, tell it to this guy who's literally staking out a Dallas ICE facility and engraving something into the side of bullets. Let's see here. Renewed calls for enhanced protection at ICE sites, including rooftop access controls. The facility was evacuated. Nearby flights at Dallas Love Field adjacent were briefly disrupted, but resumed. Yeah, that's crazy. All right, what do you guys make of this? Looks like more of the same, if you ask me. Right, you got Luigi Mangione down here. You have Robinson, who assassinated Charlie Kirk not too long ago, actually. Who left this on his ammunition? Upright, down, down, down. The Catholic Church shooter, right, for the children and actually targeted children. So all this is Satanism. That's all it is. Somehow the Democratic Party found a way to weaponize these demon possessed, I don't know, what do you want to call them? Phrygians? What I see is childhood trauma with people with no strength, and they don't have an actual outlet for it. So this is what it turns into. We're dealing with a world of childhood trauma. Some people were able to process it and some weren't. So it's the childhood trauma that separates the person from God, right? It erases this, they don't believe in God. They say, well, how could this happen to me? How could there be a God and him let this happen to me? So they just don't believe it. So right there, without that foundation, they don't have any moral compass. They're completely lost. There is no eternity for them. There is no heaven and hell. And if there is, they prefer hell, right? Because Satan is like, come here, I'll hold you to my bosom. I'll look after you. It's kind of like the government and welfare and things like that. I'll be your father. Since you don't know your father, I'll be your father. Kind of like the predator, right? They come wearing a mask of kindness and love, just like Lucifer presented himself as an angel of light. That's what they do. That's what a predator does. Oh, you need me to help babysit your kids? Go out, have a good time. You deserve it. And while you're gone, they're grooming your children. That's what happened to these people. They didn't get the medical attention that they needed. They weren't in the atmosphere where they could express themselves, no outlet. And you have a political party that is fully aware of this. And instead of addressing it and helping these folks, because once you help them, they become conservatives. Once you give them the correct diagnosis, they start taking their medication and everything's good. They become conservative. Even if they're gay, trans, it doesn't matter. They still will become a conservative because things become clear now. Because that's all conservative really is just a group of the population that is mostly Christian, because that's the foundation. Our country was founded on Christianity. It's engraved into the Constitution. Everything for us starts there. Without that, we're not going to be able to communicate. We're not using the same key, right? We have this cipher, and if your cipher isn't a Christian one, you're not going to be able to break the code. So broken homes and childhood trauma creates this disconnection from God. and that void is filled with Satanism. And then because, in my opinion, that's what the Democratic Party is. It's the party. It's the Satanic Party. Some people are like, oh my God, sleuth, how you say that? I'm a Democrat. Hey, it's just an opinion. I'm saying overall, not everybody that registered as a Democrat is a Satanist. But I believe that most people who are Democrats are just people that have kind of gotten sucked into the whirlwind of it all. I think if you're an overly emotional person, you're just going to be more drawn to that because those are the methods that they're using. The tactics that they're using are aimed at emotional people. So if you might not be on the fringe, but if you're overly emotional, you're going to be susceptible to the weapons that they're using, the manipulation tactics. KMG, what's up? Satan lies, even Diddy said so. Tony Ann, you're correct. They are shaping young, easily influenced minds from the young age. Now we are reaping the results. Yeah, I find it interesting. You have people like, what's her name? Megan Fox, I think. She's the one, she was dating Machine Gun Kelly, I think. Well, I remember before she had any kids, she was kind of like one of these radical left types. And she was very pro trans. And it was my understanding that it was something that happens naturally, to somebody. But I don't think there's been enough studies on it. So I'm ignorant to it. So I just found it very strange that somebody who's advocating for it all of a sudden has, I think, like 2 or 3 children that end up becoming trans. That doesn't seem natural to me. That seems to be like your basic causation. But at the same time, it could be proving their point, right? They're trying to say, well, male and female is something that's imposed on them at an early age. So if somebody just imposes like, hey, you're trans, that's what they'll be. Same might be true for male and female. That's the argument. It's not true. Things are just inherent. Doesn't mean that there's not going to be crossovers, Like you're going to find some women that are just more physically strong than some men. Yeah, it's like mass confusion. But the reason that I'm able to see that it is Satanism, because that's what it is, right? Everything that God has created, what's deemed good, is being flipped upside down, and that's what that's what Satanism is. It's a rebellion. It's a rebellion against Christ and the jealousy of mankind, right? Mankind. God created the heavens, the angels in the heavens before he created the earth and man. So he created Lucifer, right? The fallen angel, the king of the fallen angels, to be perfect. Like you have no choice, Lucifer. You have free will. You can do what you want. But I demand you to be perfect. You were created to be perfect. You cannot stray from this whatsoever. And then all of a sudden he creates man, gives him Eve, and they're just fucking up left and right. Right? I think the apple was more for Lucifer to trigger him. right? Told him, be perfect, be perfect. You have no choice but to be perfect here in heaven. And then you got these goofy, like ape-like creatures running around on earth, Adam and Eve, like, hey, all naked and doing whatever they want, experimenting. Don't touch that. Don't eat from the tree of knowledge. Don't you do it. Lucifer's like, yeah, don't do it. And even tries to tempt him to do it, right? Ha ha ha. I'm gonna make you do what I'm not allowed to do, and then you're gonna be in big trouble. They do it anyway. Boom. They eat the shit out of that apple. They even pull the seeds out and start planting them everywhere. Lucifer's like, what the fuck, man? Why aren't you punishing them? You make me be perfect here in heaven, and you let these Neanderthals run around eating from the tree of knowledge, and you didn't do anything about it. And God tells them, well, guess what, buddy? They get to be good and evil. They get to make their choices. And they'll be judged for it. Through time, I'll give them their rules. Everything will be according to my plan. But for you shut your mouth and you go be perfect here in heaven. Lucifer said, fuck that. I'm going down there and I'm going to destroy his favorite little apes, right? These little apes running around on this little planet. I'm going to destroy them. I'm going to teach them how to fight, to create war, to create magic, and how to tap into science and mathematics. That'll show them. So that's what we've been dealing with ever since creation. Is his jealousy, him trying to corrupt us, and those that have been successfully corrupted are rebelling against Christ. Yep, AI, it's like another tool, Tony. Tony says, and now with AI, it's going to be impossible to believe anything. So I think that's when Jesus comes back. No man knoweth the time nor the place. So that, to me, that just means chill, right? Chill. Don't stop listening to the devil. He's not your friend. He wants to deceive you. He wants to take away the gift that's been given to you. Right? Sometimes he'll even trick you through religion, joining like some church or whatever. Even churches can be divisive, right? He wants to divide us from our brothers and our sisters. And he's done a pretty good job. Right? He's crowned himself the king of earth, the king of the physical realm. And he will be the ruler over these Neanderthals that God favors so much. Right? I'll whisper into his ears the poetry of jealousy and anger, lust. Last decade for the increase in gay and transgenders. I don't think most people general research statistics. Apparently, the shooter killed 2 detainees and wounded a 3rd detainee. Yeah, and I don't think the destruction matters, right? The chaos, it really doesn't matter who you hit. It could be women, children, detainees, ICE officers, a stray dog. Because at the end of the day, the narcissist or the psychopath is not to blame. You made me do this. I killed those people because you guys are immigrating them, or you won't let them live in the United States illegally. So I killed them, right? See, I killed Charlie Kirk to show you that guns are bad. See, you should have listened to me about the Second Amendment, and then I wouldn't have shot Charlie Kirk in the neck. Right? If you would have just listened to me, I wouldn't have killed those immigrants who were here illegally, being detained and processed and possibly deported. I didn't kill them. You killed them by bringing them to this facility. Because in the end, it doesn't matter. It's just all Satanism. It's just all a Godsmack. Aw, snap. Thanks, Boston. Thank you for your support. I appreciate that. Jinx says apparently the shooter killed 2 detainees. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It doesn't matter anyway. All right, it's like winding up a Ted Bundy doll. It's not doing anything. It's just sitting there fantasizing about murder until you wind it up. And then you got fucking Master of Puppets or Puppet Master, little Chucky doll running around. So you got to ask yourself, who's winding up all of these poor kids? And I know you're like just probably thinking it's disgusting that I'm saying these poor kids who are out here murdering, but that's how I see it. To me, it all started with childhood trauma or some kind of trauma as a kid. That disconnect from God. It's sad. Right? You can't convince an atheist that there's a God because it's just almost impossible. They've suffered so much at such a young age that they just don't believe it's possible. And even if they do believe there's a God, the fact that it has happened, they don't like God. Not only even if they believe it, they hate him now. And they want, an enemy of my enemy is my friend. And that's the devil. That's why it's so awful when children are harmed at such a young age, because they not only can they not understand it, they don't understand what it's doing to them, how it's going to affect the rest of their lives. They go on to be predators, sometimes serial killers, violent offenders, people who suffer from anxiety, depression, personality disorders. Those people can be easily manipulated, especially when they become suicidal. Dealing with mom issues, dad issues. Yeah, that's how I look at the Bible, like a manual, like a roadmap to something that's there. Like, hey, if you don't see what's there, what's been given to you at birth, because you are under attack. Your parents are under attack. We talked a lot about ideological subversion when it comes to warfare and destroying a country's culture. Well, where do you think they learned these tactics from? It comes from the devil. That's all he's doing is ideologically subverting mankind to rebel and to miss out on their purpose. Right? And it's all because of jealousy. What's up, presence upon me? It's a drastic increase of transgender minors. Yeah, they don't care. Everything is an answer to their question, right? Well, even if there is an uptick in transgender, look, we were right about that. That men are not men because they're men. Men are men because they're, predisposed at an early age and programmed to believe that way, right? To dress like men, to cut their hair short, to do. But the truth is things, there's a picture of me when I was like, I think I was like almost 3 years old. And I was wearing, I think, one of my sister's dresses, and I was wearing my mom's high heels. And it was like a goofy joke, right? I had just when I grabbed it, and I don't remember. But when I see the photos, I always did silly stuff like that. So kids are kids. They don't know. They don't know the politics of it all. They don't know the implications. They're just being silly. I want to be a girl. Why do you want to be a girl? Instead of getting mad at them or telling them no, just talk to them. Like, what's going on? Oh, well, the person that I really look up to, which would be their older sister, then a friend or somebody that's been helping out, is a girl. I want to be like her, right? She's a champion soccer player. She works hard. She takes me training with her. I want to be a girl. I want to be a girl like that. Doesn't mean that they feel like they are a girl. And then there's some people that truly have dysphoria. So I think that there should be more attention to that. There should be more studying. There should be more knowing about it. Because when I see people weaponizing it, I can't help but think that the same philosophy can be applied to pedophiles, right? Oh, well, we're into children. Well, don't shun them, right? It's like it's got this weird twisted way of being like, well, if you can accept this, then maybe you'll be able to accept the pedophilia. So I don't know if that makes sense to you guys, but it's a game of inches, right? If I can pull an inch from you, that just means that I can continue to pull inches until I have a mile. All right, guys, that is going to be all of my time for today. Thanks for hanging out with me. And if you're part of the replay crew, remember this was a live event. It's not some scripted YouTube video. I'm sorry for you that you missed the live event, but that's on you. Got to hit that bell icon. And for those of you who continue to donate to the Cash App and sending me tips and things like that, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Those of you who do the super chats, super stickers, all of my members, all of you mods, and all of you fine subscribers, you guys rock. Much love to you. And I'll see you on the next one. But I got to get going. Peace.